Dans un monde dirigé par 28% des femmes dans la sphère politique, nous le savons, le chemin vers la parité est encore long. Et cela se ressent davantage dans certains secteurs que d'autres, comme dans celui du digital. En effet, les femmes ne représentaient que 28% des salariés dans le digital en France en 2017. Cependant, certaines femmes se battent contre ces inégalités et encouragent les autres à s'affirmer dans le milieu du digital. C'est d'ailleurs le combat de notre invitée du jour, Alana Karen, directrice des plateformes de recherche chez Google. Alana va nous raconter les désillusions auxquelles elle a dû faire face dans cette multinationale américaine, mais également sa passion pour son métier. En plus d'être directrice des plateformes de recherche, Alana Karen a écrit un livre, The Adventure of Women in Tech, How We Got Here and Why We Stay. Bonjour Alana, merci énormément d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui. Dans un premier temps, nous allons vous laisser vous présenter plus en détail.
Sure. My name's Alana Karen, and I worked at Google for 20 years. When I started, I was on the front lines doing customer support and took on a project around ads, what we would accept policy-wise and what we wouldn't. And that ended up turning somehow into a 10-year-long job creating, maintaining, and implementing policies for ads and other products. I then moved on to a job in our ultra-fast internet, building out customer support and installs. And then after that, I moved to search, where I am currently building out a central program management team. So basically, who helps engineers get things done, program managers. And that's within the infrastructure world. I've also written a book, The Adventures of Women in Tech, How We Got Here and Why We Stay. And that's been a great experience of interviewing over 80 women in tech and seeing what has been critical in their journey in tech and what's helped them and what else we need to do. I have a workbook coming out as well, a follow-up workbook to that book in April.
Okay. C'est un sacré parcours. Nous espérons que nous pourrons lire votre livre prochainement. Et du coup, une question me vient à l'esprit. Qu'est-ce que ça fait de fêter votre 20e anniversaire chez Google?
For me, I felt like it was a real celebration of dedication and hard work. That it wasn't so much about, I don't get any real, staying a long time all on its own, I don't think means a lot. But when I look back over time, it is a series of great teams that I was able to build and projects that I was able to work on and make a difference and people who I mentored. And so I feel like it was just a great celebration of hitting that moment and having those collective years.
Et est-ce que vous continuez d'apprendre après 20 ans?
Yes, I think there's always something. Obviously, I now have a lot more confidence that has been built up. I do think our early career, especially as women, we're just trying to gain confidence, honestly. Like we come into workplaces, maybe we've been very good at school, maybe not. But either way, there's been a sort of quiet way, I think, about being recognized, often in school, where we're just supposed to be kind of heads down and get it done. And we get to the workplace and maybe that works for a little while, but then you start to see that some of the people getting ahead are speaking up a lot and challenging authority. And it's taken me time, really, to figure out not just the technical information of the job, but what are some of these things that I need to know to have a flourishing career, have a good career. And so an early example I'll give is that I just didn't even know to ask for what I was interested in. You know, if I saw someone doing something and I thought like, oh, that's really interesting, I wonder how they got to do it. I just assumed they were so good at it that people gave it to them. I never thought to myself, oh, maybe they told people and then they got that opportunity. I was just so quiet, waiting to be crowned. And a lot of women are like this. And ultimately I realized, oh no, other people are speaking up and they're asking for the opportunity and they're telling their manager what they're interested in, and I need to do that too.
Vous nous parlez énormément de confiance en soi et que les femmes ont relativement du mal à obtenir cette confiance lorsqu'elles doivent postuler à certains jobs. Comment vous avez fait lorsque vous avez dû postuler chez Google? Car c'est quand même une entreprise multinationale au chiffre d'affaires de plus de 30 milliards de dollars.
I think it's a two-part answer. I'll try to answer in brief though. I think there was a piece of it where I had been slowly building up the confidence for that level of job. So when I applied to the Google job, it was actually slightly more junior than what I had been doing previously. It was during the downturn, again, to date myself, in 2001, so this dot-com bust. And there weren't a ton of jobs. And so I played it safe. I applied to a whole bunch of jobs. But when I looked at Google, I saw this frontline account management job, which I'd already done. And interestingly enough, it was posted that they need people who knew French and Spanish. And I'd taken 13 years of French. And I was like, maybe I can talk my way into that. Maybe my non-fluent French is enough for them. And so I felt like I had enough grounding. And I think that is often hard. Women are more likely to feel like they have to check all the boxes on a job application, whereas men may be 70%, 80%. And again, this is trained behavior, right? We're the careful caretakers of society for the most part. Men are out foraging and leading. And so we've kind of built these identities for ourselves. I, though, on that particular job description, met all the criteria. So I think I just felt really confident. So that's the first part. I knew the subject matter. I had used a similar ads product. I had the background of being in customer service and account management, check. I think the other piece of it, though, was that I pep talked myself. I remember sitting nearby, having arrived slightly early to the interview in my car and pep talking myself and being like, you can do this, this, like practicing a little bit what I thought would be good answers and just feeling as prepared as possible. So I always think that's like a little bit of a winning combination for me, where I try to carry my confidence from previous experience, but I also pep talk myself a little bit where I'm not feeling confident, or I have other people do it, so that I go in as confident as possible. And I think, it worked. It certainly worked for me to get in the door at Google. I will say that there were other jobs I didn't get during my career. So I also think there is maybe also a hidden component of you have to keep trying sometimes, right? I didn't get a job at Yahoo 2 years earlier, but 2 years later, I got a job at Google. So sometimes you have to keep going.
C'est impressionnant de voir d'où vous en êtes parti et jusqu'où vous êtes arrivé. Vous avez su allier vie professionnelle et vie personnelle, mais comment c'est possible? Parce que vous avez 3 enfants, comment vous avez réussi à rester focus sur votre carrière? Parce que malheureusement, on le sait, 59% des femmes sont tombées en burn-out durant la pandémie parce qu'elles avaient du mal à concilier leur rôle de mère, mais également leur vie professionnelle.
Oh, certainly. Every day. I actually have a sick kid at home right now, just a cold or something, but it happens all the time where you're like, hey, could you be quiet during this meeting? And I'll come and help you after. So I think I'm not ever, for me, I think I gave myself the grace early to not be perfect. To not be perfect at work, to not be perfect at home, to not find a perfect balance, but instead to know that there would be an ebb and flow. that there would be some times where I could really double down and focus on work. And there would be times where I had 2 kids under 3 years old and I would be focused on the home. And I think doing that has saved me a certain amount of stress. But I think also I've had to, over time, learn to take better care of myself and sometimes say, well, that's going to take an extra week, or I'm not going to hand make anything for my kids' class. They're getting store-bought everything. I do think sometimes we want to do everything perfectly, and we put that on ourselves. It's not just other people, but we put that on ourselves. And then maybe we also contribute toward putting it on other people. And I think we just have to learn in these times to be really kind to ourselves and to others.
Du coup, est-ce que votre livre a été une sorte de thérapie pour vous? Est-ce qu'il vous a permis de vous rendre compte que vous n'étiez pas parfaite et que les autres femmes ne l'étaient pas non plus?
I got annoyed that I wasn't seeing the book that I would have found useful, that I wanted to read. Because when you looked around, a lot of the books always interviewed women who'd made it to the top, CEOs, COOs. Or a lot of the news articles were attracted to the bad stories. And there were all these headlines like, do women belong in tech? Can women thrive in tech? And here I was with a very long career in tech with lots of other women that I knew who'd stayed in tech for a long time. And I was like, are we all gonna leave? Are we all gonna quit? Are we having meaningful careers that nobody's talking about? And therefore other women don't know it's doable. And once I had that thought and this idea for the book, it was just such a thorn in my side. I wanted to get it out there so other women could have it, and interviewed 80 women and wrote it because I just felt like it was really missing. And it was a passion project. It was therapy as well. I talk about myself in the book and got a lot of advice from the women I interviewed as well that have really helped me.
Que diriez-vous aux gens pour leur donner envie d'acheter votre livre?
Well, we should buy my book, The Adventures of Women in Tech, Why We Got Here and Why We Stayed, to hear over 80 stories of different women having meaningful careers in tech and seeing their paths so that you can see that you can belong to and learn from their journeys. So I think that it's a really great place if you're feeling a little lost in your career and you need a little guidance or a little help or just want to feel like you belong. Or if you're just getting into tech or you're thinking about getting into tech and you're not sure you can do it. So it's just a lovely book filled with stories and advice. So please buy it.
Merci beaucoup Alana. Et du coup, pour clore cette interview, est-ce que vous auriez un petit message de motivation à donner à toutes les femmes qui sont ou vont rentrer dans la tech?
I think for me, I really wrote the book because I wanted women to feel like there were meaningful careers in tech. They are lucrative careers often. They are higher paying than many industries. And I wanted women to feel like those jobs were accessible and that they belong, that they are not just navigating a man's world, but we're on the path to making it a more equitable world. And so I just would really, beg all the women out there to keep it up, band together, find support, and just know that you are awesome and own that awesome, carry that with you, and give advice to others. So mentor others as you go along, so you all can stay and build great worlds in tech.
Merci énormément Alana d'avoir accepté cette interview. Nous espérons que votre livre encouragera de nombreuses femmes à s'affirmer dans le digital et surtout contribuera à changer les mentalités.